I just woken up and I had a dream and I felt to record it. There is not so much actually, but there were some instances and I felt that, wow, like this seems like it's worth recording. Hmm. Okay, so what I remember the first thing is like I was a girl. I think I even had traits of Denisa, like a version of Denisa, some reality somewhere. So I was a girl, very similar to Denisa, but maybe different look to it. Or but she had a personality. She had similar personality to Denisa here. So I was in a reality. I was in a bus. Oh my god, I was in a bus with these people. Like there were many people in that bus. There were people that they were not strangers. It felt like a bus that it was taking us somewhere. Like maybe it was one of those like travel buses that like we knew each other. We knew the somehow we had there was some kind of knowing between the beings in the bus. It was not like we were like strangers. We were going somewhere. That bus was going somewhere, and I remember there were these children in the bus that were kind of like having this pretentious in a way behavior or something like this. I don't know. They wanted something to be done in a certain way, to sit on some chairs, or they wanted to do something, and I deeply felt like, oh God, like I felt like I was a bit more conscious of the situation. And I was in this mindset of like things don't matter in a way. To like I was detached from things, so I would just I don't know. They had some preferences. Like some of them wanted to sit on some chairs, and I just left them sit whatever. I went to the back of the bus and I just remember I sat there on a chair. I knew though that so what I did is that I went in the back of the bus. I just sat there by myself. No one was wanting to sit there. The back of the bus was empty. There was that empty seat in the further last seat in the back, and I went there and I sat on it and I just left them be there because they wanted to. I don't know. They were like being this pretentious. The word doesn't come to me right now, but this pretentious child like I want to stay there and then in the front of the bus, and some they were like spoiled childs or something like that, wanting to stay on some of the chairs, or they just I knew that I knew their behavior was wrong, but they just didn't had it in me, the force to stay and just argue with them and explain to them why their behavior is wrong anymore, like because usually this is what I would have done, but it would have required so much energy. I was in that inner space where I just okay, just if you want to go there, if you want to have this behavior, if you want to act like that, I don't have the energy anymore. Don't like I will just leave you to act like that, and you do your thing. And I went in the back of the bus and I sat there on that. There was no one there. No one wanted that seat. I just sit there and let them be. And I knew I knew it was a mistake, their choices were a mistake, but they just left them be. What happened is that because they made those choices, okay, so I remember that I tried to tell them rationally, like, look, this is like this and this is like this. Like, I don't know, I was explaining in that moment with the choices, like, with the best optimal choice would be this, and you sit like that, or I don't know, I just try to explain them once. I've seen that it doesn't work, they don't listen, I've just left them be. I went into the back of the bus with that single chair that no one wanted to stay there, and I sat there and I left them be there in the front. And uh so what happened is that I just knew, man. I could feel it in my body. I remember the feeling of it. I just felt something was not right about their choices. They've made some unright choices. I could feel it here, from here, because I can still feel it in my body right now. It's like I could feel it from here to here. It was like, could feel the feeling, the pressure. It was a pressure, but it didn't have the energy anymore to stay, to go there and explain to them why it's wrong, why it feels wrong, why they should act differently, they should make different choices. I didn't. I didn't. I felt depleted. I don't know. It felt like in this reality in a way. I felt depleted of trying for so much time in the past, explain them, because I think I tried to explain to those people different other events, in different other circumstances. I try to like take them as children, and I try to explain them step by step. Hey, here it is. Like, this is why it is like this, and this is why this choice is not so good. And I tried, and they didn't listen. And I felt like in the dream, I felt I had no energy left in me to try to do that anymore. So I just left them. And I went there in the back. It did felt wrong. And of course, like something wrong happened. I don't know. It's like, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but something happened with the bus. Yeah, something happened. Like it's a sort of projectile. I don't know where it came from. Maybe it was like a different, like a. I remember a projectile started, like, clashed into the bus, and it hit exactly that portion where the children decided to stay. The bus clashed, and some of the children died, and I didn't died. Um, and now I see us like we were outside of the bus in a different. Like, it was like it's so interesting how it happened. So we were first initially in the bus. The children were there in the front taking those seats. It wasn't the right two seats, but yeah, I left them be. I went into the back. Then the scene continued for some time. We were traveling, and then something happened. Like, it's like a projectile that either it was a, I don't know where it came from. Either it was like a splint from an airplane that crashed, like this piece of the airplane went into the bus. I just don't remember exactly where it came from. But yeah, it clashed into that portion of the bus where the children were. Some of them died. And then it was like all of a sudden we saw ourselves outside of the bus. The bus was clashed, and we were in this village. It had streets and houses, and now some of the children were like upset, like, oh my god, what a bad choice, like we did. And they were like really bitter in themselves, and they were like, oh yeah, but they weren't able to admit it, that it was a bad choice. So still, I could feel their energy, I could feel everything that was going on inside of them, but I couldn't do anything if they wouldn't. Like, I knew that I couldn't do anything for them because they were in denial. They weren't able to accept all these things that were happening to them. So I could see their, it's like I could see their everything that was going on inside of them. Like I could look at them and see like, oh, so yeah, like they were full of bitterness, of sadness now because they instinctively knew they made a bad choice, but still inside of them I could feel this black theme, could almost see it, but they weren't, still not recognizing and still fighting with admitting that that choice was bad. So still they had this proudness, this thing that they couldn't admit. So in the exterior reality they wouldn't say anything, and inside of them they would fight with their own conscious understanding to admit that that was a not so right choice what they choose and in the before the accident. So now we were outside of the bus, some of the children were dead, but see, they died in that instance with the bus, but now when we were outside, we were like in the astral or something. Like, it was the same version, but we were alive and we were like these actors or something. So now I was just sitting there like the actor, like no, no, the movie just no clashed because of that choice. I knew why it happened, but I couldn't do anything again. I just left them be. They were now speaking besides, and like why did that happen, and it was like this, well, and between them now they were starting to speak, and uh, they were trying to find reasons for why they made that choice. Still not admitting that their own mistakes. Basically, they still try to find a way to not admit their own mistakes in that astral, like after they died, but they didn't die. It was just like a movie, that stopped, and now we were outside of the bus. They were just trying to draw conclusions and still not admit their own mistakes for what happened. I was looking at them like that. Couldn't. I knew that they're still now after the event, still not understanding, still not able to admit within themselves the mistakes, and I just let them be again. So what happened then, man, is like in that astral, or whatever that was after the. So it was a different reality now. We knew we were actors in this instance right now. When we were outside of the bus, and we knew we came back to our actor selves. So we knew, okay, so the game, the movie, they got ended because of that bad choice these guys did. But again, what can I do? Like. So I just stayed there, and I was waiting, and I was looking at them starting to talk about the sense and trying to figure out why that happened, and I just let them be. I was there waiting in that village or whatever it was, again a bit removed from them somewhere. There was a group now. There was a bus here outside. There was the group all around the bus, mm, just talking among them, trying to like how can we go back to that instance with the bus now, fix it, and I was talking there, and I was here, and just waiting because I knew everything. Like I knew why it happened. I knew the only thing that they needed to do it was to admit to themselves, not to another one, to become conscious, basically, not to admit, but to 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 become conscious of them, or some traits of themselves, some mistaken behavior in themselves that was that led to that, to that led to for them to make those choices that led to that event. So it was a trait in themselves that had to be seen by their own selves. It was nothing that they had to admit to another one or something like that. They had to come to a certain inner conclusion, certain realization, better said, to become conscious of something, some of their own inner traits that were not. It's something related to like a pride or something like that. That they were. It was keeping them from admitting their mistakes. And by the way, some of the children. I remember they were like some type of gypsy children, but not like in this reality. They were like some sort of royal gypsy children or something like that. And these gypsy children, especially I remember a girl, they had a lot of this pride in them. Like, no, like I know what I'm doing. Like I want, like I am entitled to have this, and I will make this choice. And they feel like this vanity in a way, and that led them to make that mistaken choice, and that led to that event of the bus clashing. It that led to us in that astral or whatever, which was very similar to the previous scene before, but now we were just outside of the bus and we knew we were acting out, so we were actors now. We knew our actor selves, but see, there was the actor selves, but we also knew that there was something important the way we played in that scene, and we knew that somehow we needed to go back to that scene and repair, take different choices in the movie we were acting in, so the movie could react differently. We knew it was a mistake what happened. Now they were talking between them, trying to figure out. And what happened that is next is that here in the astral, what happened next is that I could feel like they were not getting to the right point again. Like they were trying to figure out what was wrong, but not getting to the core of them. Like some of their own inner traits were a mistake. That pride was a mistake. Not they were trying to figure out what happened in the physical. Like maybe I shouldn't have, I don't know, some they were again not looking in the right place. They were looking in why that happened in the physical. Oh yeah, so maybe they were starting to blame each other or blame, oh maybe you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't have said that, or you, again, not looking within, not looking at their own selves. So again, I was looking, I knew it was again a wrong path. It was a wrong path. Here in the astral it was again a wrong path to think like that, to to act like that again, trying to figure out the motives in this way, going externally again, looking at others instead of looking at themselves. So again, I had that feeling of, oh my god, yeah, like I can't, like it's pointless to go and try to make them see themselves, because they will just continue like this, fighting with me. Like they will not want to turn and look at themselves. So I just, again, I felt like that. Wow, like I can't, like I know my choices. It's like almost seeing the equations, the potential. Like, you know, it's like looking at a person and seeing a bar with like 39% of understanding, 21% of understanding, 13% of understanding. Like I was looking at them, and I knew my chances. Like I knew their chances that they could understand were like minimum, you know? Like, didn't feel like they were there, the chances. And then again, I felt that feeling of, well, that's it. Like, what can I do then? Like, here it is. I just waited. And what happened then in the astral is that they started to get sick now. Like a disease came. It was like a virus. It was like a virus that hit from nowhere, man. Like, I don't know, they started to just fall off and die. That was strange. Because they're in the astral, in the actor selves, they started to freaking like drop dead. And then one started to happen to one, and then another one, and I just understood, oh my god, like, then it started to happen. Because see, there was a group of children that caused all of that in the first scene with the bus. There were only some of them, like three children. I remember a girl, a gypsy girl, that was the main one. But there was maybe two other girls with her, and two parents. So it was like two, three girls and about two parents that were in they created all of that in the bus, because the parents wanted to defend the girls and their choices to stay wherever they wanted to stay in the bus. And it was like this thing, the parents continue to like defend the proudness of the girls and whatever. But there were other people in the bus. We were maybe like 50 people or 30 people, and many of them were just neutral people. They had no choice in that. And when they died, and when that thing clashed within the bus, all of us, let's say, died, sort like quote unquote. And now many of those people were neutral people. They had nothing to do in that first choice that led us to now be outside of the bus and seeing ourselves in the actor selves. So now many of the people who were seeing themselves in the actor selves knew that they had no involvement in what happened before. They were clean. If I would put it like in a sort of like they had no karma in a way to that event because they didn't made that event. There were only 5 or so people among that whole entire group that was now staying outside of the bus in that village that were, let's say, the ones who caused that entire event. The behaviors that led to that event, I mean. Because they didn't cause it. It was only their behavior, in a way. They had to understand something within themselves that they couldn't, that they weren't able to see it at that moment. So now there was like, first when they started to drop dead from that disease in the astral, they started to drop dead only the people, like I saw the girl, boom, she was like dropping dead in the astral. Oh my god, I knew, like, oh wow, oh my god, something is happening. But now I started to see everybody dropping dead, even the people that were not included. So it was like a virus, like something that came and wanted to like extinguish everything, you know, even the neutral people. So I had to die with them there in the astral. I died with them because I was there. So we all died. And now what happened is that we got to a third reality, which was, oh my god, how this reality was, man. It was like we were in a certain, it becomes undescribable. There's nothing that can be described for the human mind, but I would try to. But even if I would use words, know that it was much more and much more complex in so many ways. But simply saying, just very, very, very simply saying, it was saying that we woke up in a sort of like temple or something. It was an house or a temple or something ancient, but also present. And we woke up in some sort of guy, like god forms. We were like some sort of gods, immortal, immortal gods. And they were like I was seeing these paintings, or how could I describe those? Because it was like, my god, how could I describe that thing? It was like there was, if there was a god there, one of those gods, there were like sort of like paintings with its life in some portions of that building. It was like works of art depicting that god. And on that work of art, on that painting that it was painted on some of the walls, and many gods from that place had these paintings or representations of them on that wall, on those walls, because, and it was like the walls were breathable, and it was not static at all. They would take form when we would interact with them in a way, but it's difficult to talk about and really portray that. It's beyond the words, it's beyond. But let's simply say that there were these paintings, and when you would look at those paintings, if you would have, if you would be clean enough as a being, you could see where their paintings would represent the areas of that being in which something was not right. But the thing is that the beings, the gods themselves, when they would look at those paintings, they would not see those faults in the paintings. if that makes sense. But I could see them for some reason. Like I could see where there was a fault in a painting. It's like, and I remember I went to a god. It was like a blue thing, blue type of god, and it felt like Shiva man or something like that. But this god felt like extremely in that instance of the god. It felt like it had so many. It felt powerful there, but still it couldn't see the fault in its own image. It couldn't see it. And I remember I went to this guy and I showed him. He's like, I took his hand and it's like I took his eyes and I here, look, and I centered it. I pointed it so clearly. He had in the painting. It was this magnificent representation of it in the painting. It was like, ah, like I couldn't even describe that magnificent representation of this god. It was like a multi-dimensional painting with things moving. It was not a static painting. It was like this breathable instance of that god. But it was like a painting for us. It would look like a painting on a wall. And I said like here, look. And it was, mom, my voice was so, it was not a voice. I didn't had sound coming out of my mouth. It was my being which was my voice. So I showed to him with my being voice, like my being, here, look. And in the middle of that painting of it, that this god, this specific god had, it was in the belly here, in the belly, exactly in the belly. It was like this black hole, like I could see it. But this being couldn't see it. That no, he couldn't. He could see it. I remember he could see it, but he was not understanding that that black hole. He would consider it like something special of it. Ah, yeah, but that's my special thing near my belly. No, it's like a birthmark or something special. Ah, yeah, that's my specialty. But it was not a specialty. It was like something it was overlooking, that it was not all right in that painting, and it was generating this chaos within its being. It was like a black thing that it had to be addressed. It had to be changed. It has no, not that's not the word. That's not the right word. It had to be um adjusted. Yeah, or adjusted or made healthy in a way. So I don't find the word right now, but it's one of these words when you take something and you adjust it, you balance it, you turn it from something bad to something good. Please. Okay. So it was obvious to me that that thing was really what was causing the problems in its being. That thing in the belly button, that dark black. It was like such a black hole. Like I could look in it and I could suck me in, and it was like the entirety of its belly was being sucked in that black hole there. But he was considering it like, oh yeah, but that's my special thing, you know. So he was taking that disease to be its own. He was proud of it, and because it was proud of that, that thing would continue to remain there, and he didn't address it. And when I said, I remember, like, here, look, and everything focused, like, because there what it was different when, like, if I would focus with him, then his focus would go with me, and he would see what I see, and I showed him, and I don't know if he understood it, because that's when I think I woke up. And that was the dream, these three instances. First, we were these random, like just humans in a scene in a bus. That projectile came, we died, we went into the astral or something like that. the next reality. I don't know where to place that one, but just my mind puts this last label of the astral to it. And then we were in the astral, this disease, this virus, this something came, they started dropping dead, everybody, even the innocent ones, even the neutral ones, everybody dropped dead, to my surprise, because I kind of expected something to happen with these ones that were at fault for the main incident. But then I started to see everybody dying, and we were like, woof, taken out of that astral, all of us, and we returned to this type of God forms. Oh my God, that reality feels. Oh. And in that reality, like, yeah, there were those representations or paintings, and I think each God could have many of those paintings and representations, but that was it. Was a dream. I felt to record it. It's 14th of December 2022.